It is time for 600 days in Pixelmon. This time around, I will be tackling the Kalos Dex and trying to obtain a Kalos Living Dex within the next 100 days. And I don't believe it'll be too difficult of a task, considering the Kalos Dex is the smallest with only 72 new additions to it. But either way, this should be quite the fun adventure. So, to kick things off on day 501, after catching my first Kalos Pokemon in the form of a Honedge, I came to a terrible realization. I'm broke. This is quite a glaring issue, considering I'm almost out of Ultra Balls as well. But before I really start getting into this dex, I did have to make a quick run to Ultra Space to obtain some specific items. There is a legendary Pokemon in the Kalos Dex that goes by the name of Zygarde. Zygarde can only be obtained through an item called a reassembly unit, and to craft said item, you need some Ultra Deep Stone, which can only be found in Ultra Space. After obtaining some Ultra Deep Stone and crafting my reassembly unit, I did go back to Ultra Space just to explore for a bit. While I was in Ultra Space, I found a couple of Solgaleo raids, which weren't too difficult to KO with the help of my Volcarona. I also happened to find a very cool Pokemon that I could actually catch, this Pokemon being the alter form of Honedge. I used the little amount of Pokeballs that I had to catch it, which made for a very cool Pokemon on my team, but at this point I was pretty much out of resources, so it was finally time to head home on the day of 503. However, as soon as I stepped through my Ultra Wormhole on day 503, it appears that another Pokemon was waiting for me. This Pokemon being Victini. Victini spawned as soon as I got back. However, Victini is not a Pokemon that I currently need, so I went ahead and KO'd it for the XP. And this KO was actually all that I needed to evolve a previously caught Pokemon into its final form. And at the end of day 503, I sold what very little items I could actually find, but I only ended up making about 3k. And at this point, most of the structures around my base had already been looted, so I decided it was time to do some long distance traveling. Boy howdy do I just love the Nether. Oh man, do I love being on fire for 5 minutes. Jumping on trees that have ice mechanics for no reason? Yes sir. What the fuck? Ahem. So, yeah, my Nether adventure didn't have the greatest of starts, but, that was almost immediately redeemed because I found a Master Ball in a Nether Fortress. So my pain might have been worth it. Anyways, I did not actually come to the Nether to explore. I came here to do the overworld travel thing, where you go super far in the Nether and it takes you even further in the overworld. So after spending a day traveling through the Nether, I made a new portal on the night of 505, and on the other side of that portal was a completely unexplored area about 9,000 blocks away from home. My main priority for traveling to this unexplored territory was to find new structures to loot, and I think I did a pretty decent job of that, as I was able to make about 90k after looting a sunken ship. So now that I can actually afford Ultra Balls, I can in turn now afford to catch more Pokemon. So for the next few days, that's exactly what I did. I went on a little bit of a catching spree across the days of 506, 507, and 508, all the while stopping for any sunstone shards I could find, because I need them to craft a very important item that is mandatory if I want to complete this dex. And on the day of 509, I actually found the spawn biome that the legendary Pokemon Evelt spawns in. And considering it's been a decent amount of time since the legendary spawned, I decided to try my luck, which did pay off in the form of an Eveltal. Being the owner of a Master Ball, this was not a very exciting catch, but either way, I have obtained my first legendary of Kalos. The XP I got from catching this Eveltal was actually enough to make my Honedge evolve, so now I'm also the owner of a very cool Alter Two-Blade. After getting home on day 510, I was now able to craft quite possibly the most important item for the rest of this challenge. That item being a Zygarde cube. If you don't know how Zygarde works, it's basically a Pokemon made of a bunch of tiny green boogers that can start randomly spawning in the world only after you craft a Zygarde cube. You need to find and absorb a varying amount of these boogers to summon Zygarde in its different forms. However, the part that kinda throws off my whole game plan is the fact that these boogers can only spawn in chunks that you have not spent more than 30 minutes in, which basically means it's impossible for them to spawn near my base, so I'm about to be traveling for a very long time. Anyways, past me has a very cool catch to show you all. So, how do these work? Do they spawn on logs, leaves, and grass? Yo! I wasn't even paying attention. I was looking at my decks. Well, not my decks. I was looking at the, on how to get Zygarde cells. So, on the night of 510, we found a pretty important raid boss, being Hoopa. And I think I'll just let past me give you the rundown on how this went. Oh, we're cooked. We're cooked. Why do we have two... Oh. We have two people that are weak to Psychic. Oh, I got cooked. Oh, we lost. Yeah, we lost. Bro, I could have won. I could have won. Aw, man. I didn't expect... Okay. That's my bad. But I didn't expect one Quiver Dance to do that much. I did not expect one Quiver Dance to do that much. Okay. Hoopa's easy. Hoopa raids are easy. So if we find more of those, then we're knocking those out any time of the day. Really though, I do need to focus on like actually catching Pokemon because I barely caught any yet, and it's like day 10. And I still have so many to catch. A lot of that I haven't even seen. So, as you saw in that last update, I am lacking in the caught Pokemon department, and there's no easier way to change that than going to Ultra Space. So, during these next few days in Ultra Space, I managed to find my second Fennekin, who at this point is the only starter Pokemon that I've actually found. I found some final form Pokemon such as Heliolisk, and I was even able to evolve one of my Fennekins into a Braixen. While catching Pokemon, I ran into the only legendary that spawns in Ultra Space, that legendary being Cosmog. Also, I found and caught an Ashen Dragonite, which actually isn't very rare in Ultra Space, so I was kind of surprised that I didn't already have one. After catching a couple of more Pokemon, I found out that one of them that I caught came with a little something extra. What is that? What is that? What? So, on day 513, I was mainly focused on traveling and evolving Pokemon because at this point, I realized that the Zygarde boogers are very luck-based and I should probably just commit to finding those now. I also knew that finding enough of these boogers would consume a very large amount of time, which would give me less time to catch/evolve Pokemon later, so I'm just going to do those evolutions now. So during the next couple of days of travel, I didn't really do much besides, well, travel. While traveling, however, I did run into a gigantic modern city, which was very cool to explore. It had a bunch of different shops, different like structure buildings and stuff. However, it was not very FPS friendly, so I wasn't really able to show it off much. But now that I'm a decent ways away from home, it is time to start looking for these Zygarde cells. But obviously, if I'm spending a week traveling, odds are I'm going to find more Pokemon I can catch. So while I was traveling, I found a decently rare biome called the Twilight Forest, which was the spawn biome for most of the fairy and ghost type Pokemon that I needed, such as Phantump and Pumpkaboo, Spritzee and Swirlix, and on occasion you can even find Klefki. I did stay in that biome for a good majority of a day, making sure I got all of the Kalos Pokemon that spawned there before heading out again. I stopped at a nearby village to sell some items, and ended up leaving with a Victini following me. And one last final stop that I made was a desert temple that I found, where I think I may have gotten as lucky as I possibly could have with the loot that was in it. Either way, I eventually found a snowy taiga biome, which was an okay place to look for Zygarde cells, according to the research I did about them, so this is where I camped on the night of 517. And I'll let past me tell you all how that went. There's a Berserker. Dope. Oh my goodness. There's a cell. 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 Get me up there. Get me up there. Come here. Ooh, wait. Oh my god, I found one. I can't believe it. So, something that one of these guides I checked out said would work was to turn your render distance all the way down, and then fly/build high enough into the air that you can no longer see the world. You're then supposed to stay up there for about 5 minutes before coming down and seeing loads of Zygarde cells. Yeah, this just didn't work actually. I'm assuming the strategy used to work, but past me ended up getting baited because I got lucky with trying this strat once and ended up getting one cell from it. So, I proceeded to do that strategy. Every single time I found a new chunk that was in a decent cell biome. I don't believe this strategy really affects anything anymore, and the cells that I did find by trying this were probably just them spawning in randomly on their own. Either way, I did find a couple cells. So after finding my first few cells, I decided to take a break and try to find the last couple of Pokemon that I needed from Ultra Space, those Pokemon being Pancham, and a very special one that I'm going to save for later. Either way, my Ultra Space adventure immediately went wrong, and past me was not very happy about that. Are you sick? This game is so bad. It says there's a Pheromosa on the minimap. I don't see it. Oh, hello. No, no, no. Yeah, so after KOing another space alien star child and finding a couple of Panchams, I decided I had enough of Ultra Space. And now that I'm back from Ultra Space, it's time to get back to cell hunting. So here's a little montage of some of the cells I found. And after all of that cell gathering, I found a Suicune on the night of 525. I will need another one of these very, very far down the line, but past me didn't know that yet, so I ended up KOing it. So I made it home on day 526, and I immediately went to Ultra Space to try and get that very special Pokemon I mentioned earlier. This Pokemon can only be found in Ultra Space, and it is one of the rarest ones that spawns in the Ultra Jungle. I did a bit of fishing in Ultra Space, and actually ended up finding a Frogadier, which I was able to catch. I unfortunately was not able to find my special Pokemon, so I went back to the overworld because at this point, I was about 8 days strong with barely any Pokedex progress. So, when I got back home, I evolved a couple of Pokemon. One of those Pokemon being my Doublade, which is now a very sick looking Aegislash. This is probably one of my favorite altar Pokemon. I also put my newly caught Frogadier in the daycare because I could not be bothered to go find a Froakie. Those water starters are terrible to find. My progress didn't stop there, however, as I decided it had been a long enough time without me looking for another legendary to catch. The most convenient legendary that I could go look for was Diancie, so on the sunrise of 528, I flew to a nearby mountain and sat underground until a Diancie spawned. Luckily enough for me, one spawned a couple minutes later, and unluckily for me, it took basically everything I had to catch it. The mission was complete on the night of 529, so I decided to go home for the night, and surprisingly, on my walk home, my 10th Zygarde cell actually managed to spawn somewhat near my base, which was next to impossible. So now that I have this 10th Zygarde cell, the only thing stopping me from spawning Zygarde is one core. And let me tell you, finding that core did not go very well down the road. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I did kinda waste all of day 530 by taking pictures of some of my old Pokemon to hang on my tree. I eventually do want to make enough item frames to take pictures of all of my shinies and special textured Pokemon, but I do have way too many of those Pokemon to commit to that right now. On the night of 531, I did pick up my Froakie egg, and I headed to Ultra Space, because there were still a couple of one-off Pokemon that I didn't have yet. That included some Pokemon like Dedenne and Hawlucha. After finding some more of the one-off Pokemon, I did find a Celesteela raid that I got completely bopped in, so I took out my anger on another space alien star child. And since I was already in Ultra Space, I decided to try and find that special Pokemon one more time. So I evolved my Pancham, I hatched my Froakie egg, and I'll let past me show you how the hunt for Alter Greninja went. Why did I do that? I don't need ones. I don't need ones. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why do I keep doing that? I don't need twos. I don't need twos. Why do I keep doing that? Bro. Okay, I'm not gonna complain, but a 3 for an enchanted book is crazy. I'm gonna put mending on my pickaxe next, if I have the levels for it. Oh! No, it's normal, it's normal, it's normal. No. No, no, no. Man. It's a normal one. Oh. Oh. I don't need twos. Oh, what the f... Hello? Was that not a green Carvana? It was. Is it a boss? Please don't be a boss. Okay, bro's kind of fast. It's not a boss. Wait, come here. Oh, I'm a sniper. My god. You kinda match a quick ball. I can't see. Okay, I crit captured it. Very cool. What is that? No way. Wait. That's the Greninja. Wait. Is it? Oh my god, it is. Where's it at? Oh my god, no way, no way, no way, I didn't even fish it up, Dude, I wanna see, I can't see. It doesn't matter. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Oh my god, my hands are kinda shaking, I'm not gonna lie. That was a crazy, like, 5 minutes. I think I'm gonna go calm down for a sec. It's probably, the end of, what is this? 5:37? Yeah. Very eventful day. So, when I came back to the overworld on day 538, I was greeted by a Pokemon I hadn't seen in a very long time, that Pokemon being Latios. I KO'd it quickly because I really wanted to show off my newly caught Greninja. After a few photo shoots, I went to a forest in search of a Chespin because it is the last starter Pokemon that I need. It ended up taking me almost 2 full days to find a single Chespin, so after finding one, I immediately put it in the daycare. For the rest of 540, I simply just wanted to make my shulker boxes look nicer and more organized, because at this point, all of my items were kinda just starting to blend together. Also, if you know a decent bit about PIXELMON, I would pay close attention to some of these items in these shulker boxes, as they might reveal some hints to a future challenge. On day 541, I decided that for the next 5-ish days, I would go look for a Zygarde core. However, the start of these days ended up being kinda wild. A Rayquaza spawned on day 541, and past me was definitely not prepared for what was about to happen. Hello? Why am I fighting a Mega Rayquaza right now? Excuse me? Can I use this? Ooh, it's 3-hit KOing me. Okay, now you have to die. You were getting too strong. So I don't know why I didn't think Rayquaza was capable of Mega Evolution on its own, when that's its whole gimmick. Anyway, I did have to put my Zygarde core hunt on hold because I became aware of something that was equally as important. Spritzee and Swirlix are Pokemon that can only evolve when traded with a specific item. Those items, however, are pretty difficult to get, with each of the aforementioned Pokemon having a 5% chance of spawning while holding their respective item. So I went ahead and started trying to get those items since I was already in the area. Oh. Oh, nice. Okay. So I was able to get the evolution item for Swirlix, but I kind of want everyone to just watch this next moment, and I give you full permission to SMH as much as you would like. Does that Sawsbuck look super bright to anyone else? Okay, it's orange, not yellow. So I managed to stare directly at a core and not see it, and then proceeded to complain about not being able to find a core for the next 10 minutes. So let's see how that went. Oh, there's two. Nothing. Okay, nice. Crit. Probably doesn't matter. It's probably not going to break out anyway. Sick. Oh, I mean, I gotta sell, but I don't need these. How do I get a Zygarde core? It is Google time. Okay, so none of these videos are saying anything I don't already know. They're also not saying anything about cores. It's just all cells. So, at the moment, it would seem that I'm out of luck. So I'm gonna build up. The problem with that being, if any of them spawn, they will despawn after 10 minutes. That's how that works. So, okay, so I'm going to build up. I have 30 minutes in this chunk. I'm going to build up. And every 7 minutes for the next like 30-ish minutes, I'm going to come down and check if there's anything here. Well, there's another cell, so I mean, I've gotten at least one cell every time I've done that, but I do not need cells currently. Because literally as soon as I get one core, I can make Zygarde. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, the build-up thing works, I guess. Like, whenever I build up, I've gotten at least one cell every time. So I guess that, like, kinda works. But, I don't know, man. The cores don't really make sense. You guys thought I didn't see it? There's a core right here. Okay. Okay, so, I mean, okay. I guess cores are like... I guess they can... I guess they're just the same. They're just the exact same. It's just all luck, I guess. Okay, well... I mean, I can summon Zygarde now, but... Dude, that's... This sucks. This sucks. That's not even difficult. It's literally just all luck. Excuse me, Entei. I'm trying to vent here. So on day 547, an Entei spawned, which I'm pretty sure I needed, but I did not catch it. I KO'd it, and I proceeded to head home. On my way home, I actually found a Goomy, which is the pseudo-legendary of Kalos, and actually a pretty difficult Pokemon to find, so I'm pretty glad I found this. Unfortunately for me, this is where my series of unfortunate events begins. Do you sell any useful Pokeballs? Just ultra expensive. No thanks. Oh. There's a Hoopa over there. But I don't think Aegislash can... Can you hit Hoopa without killing it? I can't. Actually, wait, Fury Cutter. Is it gonna die? I forgot what Fury Cutter did, I'm not gonna lie. Crit. Why? Crit. Boom. Crit. I was gonna say I'm gonna KO it if I get to turn 50, but I'd be at turn 50. I mean, I committed like 50 turns of this. Oh. Oh. Yeah, so on day 549, a Hoopa spawned, and the next morning it KO'd itself. Pretty unlucky. Anyways, I found a couple of more Zygarde cells slash cores, but I said my streak of unfortunate events, and when it rains it pours. So let's go ahead and get unlucky again. Is that a shiny? Is that a shiny Illumise? I'm sad. So on day 551, I spent literally all of it flying to an Ice Spikes biome because apparently that is the only way you can evolve Bergmite. Pretty strange, but whatever. Anyways, when I got back on day 552, I found my 4th shiny Magikarp. Obviously I caught it because it's a shiny, but I quite truly have nothing to do with it currently. But something kind of funny that did happen that night was the spawn of a shiny boss legendary. A shiny boss Spectrier spawned, so I took a picture of it. And it may not be a legit one, but now I can say that I've seen a shiny legendary. I have returned home. Huh? What? Bro, I just got home. What? You know, hello, I guess. Okay, let's not waste time at least. Dude. Okay, so Xerneas took a whole minute and a half to catch. Well, how was that for underwhelming? On day 553, when I got home IRL, a Xerneas spawned. I threw one quick ball and I critical captured it. All within 2 minutes. Oh, I have 24 health. I'm out of flash cannons. Oh, no way, bro. Oh, oh, no. A shame that I trolled, kinda. Actually, it wasn't even kinda, I definitely trolled, but it'd be like that. Yeah, so the nights of 553 and 554 ended up being back-to-back nights of legendary raids. It also ended up being back-to-back nights of legendary L's. So, after losing 2 raids in a row, I decided to just cut my losses and go home. So I got home on day 555, and at this point I'm running very low on normal Pokemon to catch. And usually when that's the case, I go to Ultra Space, and nothing has changed. I went to Ultra Space like I usually do. Before heading off though, I did have to put Chespin back in the daycare because I needed one more egg. Anyways, I made it to Ultra Space on 556, and my goal there was to get as many EXP candies as I could, because there were a couple of Pokemon that evolve at some decently high levels that I really don't feel like grinding out. So I did raid after raid, gaining plenty of large XP candies, and after hatching my first Chespin, I decided to head home. So with my newly obtained XP candies, I started to evolve some of my last few Pokemon, but not before KOing a Raikou that decided to visit on day 558. So I evolved my newly hatched Chespin, and this next moment possibly could have been seen by some of you already, but here's a little fact about me. I have not played Pokemon Legends Arceus. That being said, I did know that there were some new regional variants of some Pokemon, such as Zorua or Sneasel, but the thing about those two is that the whole evolution line changes, and not just the last ones. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, I had no clue that Hisuian Sliggoo was a thing. And you can kinda tell that from the blank stare we shared with each other. As you can see, the next part of this adventure consumed a lot of days. So ever since I made my Zygarde cube, I've been having an internal debate on whether I should just summon Zygarde in its 10% dog form, or if I should try to find at least 50 cells to make it its 50% form. I ultimately decided that I would commit to the 50% form because that's the most common default look for Zygarde. So for the next 11 days, I went looking for as many Zygarde cells as I could find so I could slowly work my way up to 50 of them. So now we have another cell montage, but this one does have a couple of other special things that happened. As of this moment in time, I have 49 Zygarde cells. I was AFK in a little forest when, funnily enough, instead of a Zygarde cell, a Zacian spawned. KOing this Zacian actually allowed my Eevee to learn a fairy move, which means we can now get a Sylveon. Anyways, I went back to patrolling my forest when the final cell I needed spawned on a birch tree. I took the Zammer Express back home because now it is time to summon a Zygarde. On day 570, I summoned Zygarde, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kinda disappointed there was no animation or anything at all really. The machine kinda just put Zygarde in your party. Either way, Zygarde does look very cool. After a Zygarde photo shoot, I went to evolve my Strike Form Eevee into a Sylveon, but what I ended up learning is that, unfortunately, there is no Strike Form Sylveon. So I kinda just lost my cool Eevee for no reason. Days 571 and 572, however, were both entirely spent mining for gold, which I need a lot of for a future project. I can't make things like gold farms, so when I do need a specific material, I do unfortunately have to just go mine it. It wasn't all too bad though, because I did make friends with the local Registeel that spawned in the caves. I eventually did get tired of mining gold though, so I decided to make another Ultra Space trip. As most of us saw what happened to my last Goomy, I now need to level up a complete new one all the way back to level 40. So I went to Ultra Space again on day 573, stayed there for a couple of days, farming more XP candies. On this Ultra Space trip, however, I did end up running into a new Ultra Beast that I am yet to see, this one being Stakataka. I actually really like Stakataka, so I actually didn't want to KO it. And after hatching my Goomy, it was time to get back to the overworld. These next couple of days were basically a miniature redemption arc. I made sure the weather conditions were correct this time so I could get a normal Sliggoo, and I even had enough EXP candies to evolve one of my Sliggoo into a Goodra. So after all of my Goomy evolutions, I camped in my nearby desert in hopes of a Hoopa spawning, and one actually did. This one didn't take nearly as many turns to catch. In fact, it took less than half of the time the other one did. And this Hoopa actually came equipped with a prison bottle, which allows you to change Hoopa into its unbound form. And as I've done with all of my other cool Pokemon so far, it's photo shoot time. So, as of day 578, I have a whole 7 Pokemon left to obtain. So I was checking out some stuff for the next decks and prepping some stuff that I might need. This is when I noticed a problem for a certain Pokemon that you need for the Alola Dex. Meltan is an Alola Pokemon that can only be obtained through an item called a Mystery Box. The most important item used to craft this Mystery Box is a Nether Star. There are no Wither Skeletons in my world, and a lot of the builds for spawning certain mobs have been replaced with Pokemon. The only way I can obtain a Nether Star is off of a 5% chance when KOing certain legendary Pokemon, or my only other option is to use the forage mechanic in the Nether to get Wither Skeleton skulls. I chose option B with the swiftness. Legendary Pokemon already only have a 30% chance of spawning, and I would need to get lucky enough to have those specific ones who can drop Nether Stars to spawn. Additionally, most of those legendaries only have a 5% chance of dropping a Nether Star. No thanks. So I spent the next 3 days in the Nether foraging for Wither Skeleton skulls. While I was here, I actually ran into a Regidrago, which I had never seen in Pixelmon before, and it looks sick. Regidrago has some pretty sick animations. I also had no clue that it even spawned in the Nether, so that's good to know for when I get to Galar. Anyways, I went back to foraging, and my first Wither Skull was actually obtained by my Greninja. It took another full day before I got my second skull, but that time was made up when I got the third one not even a minute later. So by the end of day 580, I had all 3 Wither Skeleton skulls. I have full netherite armor, so the Wither is pretty low diff, especially since I cheesed it with the tunnel strategy as well. Anyways, I now have a Nether Star, so this will make Alola a whole 1% easier. Once I left the tunnel, I went to find the last normal Pokemon that I needed to catch, and that Pokemon was Inkay, which actually took a pretty long time to find, so I'm definitely just gonna put it in the daycare to get a second one. After finding an Inkay on day 581, I knocked out the trade evos with a friend for the following 2 days, and with the trade evos out of the way, I now have 3 Pokemon left. Yeah, so a few days back, you remember how I said I needed a bunch of gold? Yeah, that hasn't changed. I'm just lazy and I haven't done it. I still need the gold. So on days 584 and 585, I headed to a Badlands biome with my X-ray Pokemon Probopass and mined a few stacks of gold ore. Another finite resource that I need is wool, and I'll let Past Me show you what my plan was and why I'll never make that mistake again. I am so sorry. I spent the rest of day 586 KOing tentacles for ink sacs, and I was actually able to evolve my Quilladin into a Chestnut, leaving me with only a couple of Pokemon left in this dex. This next Ultra Space trip was purely just for fun since I still had quite a few days to burn. I went on a KOing spree with Groudon, fought a couple of more Solgaleo raids, and I even found another Cosmog on day 588. But the best part about this Ultra Space trip is the shiny Pokemon that I found on day 588. On this day, I found my first shiny fossil Pokemon, and that shiny was a Tyrunt. This is probably my 3rd favorite shiny that I have found, right behind Shinx and Beldum. Anyways, I think I've wasted enough time in Ultra Space, so let's get out of here and go finish that Kalos Dex. Okay, so I may have lied about going to finish that Kalos Dex because as soon as I got home, I started working on home improvements. On the morning of 590, I tried my luck on getting a Volcanion to spawn in the oasis in my backyard, but ended up with an Azelf instead. I did catch this Azelf because I will need one in the future, and Past Me finally realized that. The rest of 590 I spent in the Nether mining quartz, but I ended up leaving with a second Inkay, so now it's time to go finish that Kalos Dex. Okay, I lied again. I spent the next 2 days building a freestyle moat pool hybrid thing around my house. Look, I'm not the best builder. But even though I lied, something pretty cool did happen. You might have seen it walk by, but there has actually been a shiny Electrike watching me build this entire time and I didn't even notice. And by the time I finally noticed the Electrike, a Victini spawned as well. So maybe I was meant to be a liar if cool things are gonna happen as a result. But okay, I've done enough stalling. This time, for sure, it is time to go finish this Kalos Dex. So I headed out on my Eveltal because there is somewhere I have to go to find the last legendary Pokemon. Volcanion being the last legendary that I needed is not a coincidence. It was actually the one I was the least worried about finding because it's actually the only one that does not share a spawn biome with any other legendary if you look for it in the right biome. That biome being the Desert Lakes biome. But before we even get to Volcanion, I have a couple of more normie Pokemon to evolve. Somehow, someway, I do not have a Pyroar, even though I live in their spawn biome, but it's fine. Litleo was not the most difficult Pokemon to evolve, and my last normal Pokemon that I need is Malamar. Luckily, PIXELMON does not require you to turn your screen upside down to evolve Inkay, and instead it just has to be level 27 while at a Y coordinate of at least 127. And now that I have every normal Pokemon in this dex, it's time to find Volcanion. On day 596, I did find a Volcanion, and I will let past me go through that with you guys. Oh, that's pretty cool. Alright, let's get to it. Let's get to it. The last one I need. Recoil. Nice. I don't like that, actually. Spamming it, too. Lovely, lovely. Okay, I'm gonna use Xerneas because I can heal it if it gets too low. Kind of like that. I can't see. I'm about to die. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, I critical captured it. Oh, okay. Well, that could have gotten a lot scarier than what just happened, because it very easily could have just KO'd itself with takedown. So, with the capture of this Volcanion, I am not done with the living dex actually, because I forgot to catch another Noibat after evolving mine. Oops. So I went to Ultra Space one last time to try and find a Noibat, which I couldn't find actually, but I actually found out that there's been chests on top of these obsidian towers in the Ultra Plant biome this whole time, and I literally never knew. So I may have stayed in Ultra Space looting for a little bit longer, but that's a-okay, because once I finally left Ultra Space, I found a Noibat right away on the night of 597. So now, with the capture of this Noibat, I have finally completed the Kalos living dex. It's kind of funny how the adventure with the shortest dex ended up being one of the longer ones, but sometimes it'd be like that. We did find quite a few very cool Pokemon, had some funny moments, had a few fails as well, but all in all, contrary to what I initially believed, this dex actually did end up being pretty fun. But now it's time to start Alola, and there's a decent chance that I fail that dex. I'm looking forward to the challenge, so I'll see you all there. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and if you're interested in how these next few challenges go, don't forget to subscribe so you can see when those happen.